There's a trend in women's dating circles about dressing authentically on dates, meaning no more makeup or making an effort to dress nicely on a first date. How do men feel about this? Story 1 depends on the first date venue. In most cases, I wouldn't care. If the date is at a place with certain dress code expectations, like a nice restaurant, it's a different matter. Story 2. As someone else said, if that's her normal style, then I think it's awesome. If she's doing it to test me or prove a point, nah, I'll pass and find a mature adult. Thanks. Story 3. Definitely more comfortable, especially if she told me to do the same beforehand. Dates that feel like interviews or auditions are not my personal favorite. If all goes well, I am going to get to know the real you anyway. I would rather start that way. Story 4. This seems like a very lazy hypothetical just to prove a non-existent point of some sort. I wear gym shorts 99% of the time, but I am not going to do that on a first date or somewhere that has a higher expectation of dress code, like a nice restaurant. Story 5. Firstly, I would be amazed if someone actually turned up for a date. I tend to dress up a bit for dates, but I can see the argument for being more casual, especially for a first date. I would not be bothered by a hoodie and sweatpants. If that's what they are comfortable wearing, that's the main thing. Story 6. Depends on the context of the date. Dinner date at a decent restaurant? That's a bit casual for my taste. Casual coffee? Totally cool. Lunch or brunch? Wouldn't be my personal outfit choice for a first date, but it wouldn't be a deal breaker. But I'd say for the one who shows up dressed like this to a dinner date at a decent spot, get used to a lot of pajama wearing in seemingly improper public places. I know it's not what was asked, but I'm always weirded out by how many women, and some men too, are comfortable wearing pajamas in seemingly inappropriate public settings. All of this I should follow up by saying, I've guest trained at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym where my date trains as a first date. We were both nasty afterwards and went for lunch after in sweats. Even got to spar with her, which in my sport tells me just as much about that person as could any first date. Story 7. I'm a middle-aged man who has been married for 11 years, so I don't date anymore. In the 1990s, girls dressed wildly, especially alternative chicks. I've been on a first date with a girl who wore a Dr. Seuss hat, fishnets, eye makeup that looked like spiderwebs, and glitter lipstick. Also, gothic chicks, a girl who dressed like a rodeo star, and a weird, sexy, scary clown girl in full makeup. I was not embarrassed by any of that. Be yourself. But if you look like you literally rolled out of bed 5 minutes ago, I'm not even remotely interested. Baggy gray gym clothes are for the gym. Put on some pants if you're going out in public. I'm sure there are many others who wouldn't mind, though. Story 8. I clearly remember reading about a guy showing up to a date wearing a hoodie and sweatpants. His reason was that he was a busy guy and couldn't find the time to go home and change to fit into his schedule. The girl was upset. She thought it was disrespectful that he couldn't spend the time to change clothes for a date. Almost all comments agreed with her, especially the girls. So, in other words, the general consensus among Reddit users was that a guy should dress nicely when going on a date. The logical conclusion must be that the same is true with the genders reversed. Story 9. Generally, no, because I put effort into a date. As the man, I'm the one who will likely plan the date and make sure it's as enjoyable as possible, and I will dress well myself, so I'd at least expect them to put in some effort. That being said, it also depends on the context of the date. If it's a really casual date like rock climbing or a fun activity we're into, then it wouldn't be as big a deal. But I'm assuming you mean a relatively planned date. Story 10. I mean, I'm gay, so I'm talking about men here, but the point still stands. It depends on what the date is, I guess. If we're going somewhere fancy, I'd be kind of put off if he shows up dressed super casually, but if we're just going to see a movie or something, then it doesn't matter to me what he wears. Story 11. I'd be happy about it. It's not a job interview. Jobs demand that you suppress yourself, and that's the opposite of what you should be doing in your personal relationships. If I'm meeting someone to investigate if they and I are going to fit, I need to see them for who they are, not for some social facade that gets thrown up in an attempt to get along with a facade that was projected over me. Story 12. At least wear a slim-fit hoodie and yoga pants now. There's a trend going on in women dating circles about dressing authentically in dating. So basically no more makeup or making an effort to dress nice on a first date. If her authentic self has no interest in mutual sexual and romantic chemistry with me, then I'd prefer if she just rejected me when I asked her out. Same for if her authentic self likes playing a lot of silly games when it comes to dating, or worse, believes compatibility tests are a good idea and not unreasonable at all. Story 13. If that is appropriate for the weather and the circumstance, I am good with it. There are so many other things to care about that means so much more otherwise. Story 14. I will definitely be a bit surprised and would wonder if she had dressed appropriately for the date. Let's say we decided to grab a casual brunch and it's cold. She could be in a hoodie, sweatpants, nice sneakers with her hair and makeup done. I'll be cool with that. She doesn't have to look sloppy. But if she looked like she rolled out of bed and put whatever on, then I will definitely be a bit disappointed. I hate playing games from the start. Story 15. It's a bad impression, honestly. The beginning of relationships is when both people are on their best behavior, typically. So if this is how they act on the first date, then it does not bode well for the decline in behavior in the future. Story 16. If we are going to the gym or hiking, then sure. If it's a fancy restaurant or a night stroll through a shopping area while I'm wearing a nice dress shirt or my good date jacket, then I say it's a turn off, but I'm not going to drive home instantly over it. Story 17. Hoodie and jeans can be a great look. Hoodie and sweatpants, a little more effort would be nice. Obviously, everything depends on the specifics, as sweatpants is a bit of a broad term, but a little effort shows the other person that you value their time. Authenticity shouldn't be a shield for laziness or narcissism. If you look like you just rolled out of bed, you're telling me that I'm not worth your time. Story 18. Depends on the kind of date and the venue. Often the dress code is obvious from context, so if we are having dinner at a really fancy restaurant, sweats is an eyebrow raiser. But if context is ambiguous, that's something I would communicate about in advance anyway. On a date, I'm focused on meeting minds with the person, so what she has to say is a lot more important than what she wears. If she can look like a hobo and still charm me, then it's a flex at that point. Outfit is one thing, but makeup in general creeps me out, so skipping that is a big plus, honestly. I'd rather just know what you look like without it. Story 19. If a woman dresses up nicely and wears lots of makeup, then people will criticize her for not being authentic or not showing the real her. Different people place value on different aspects of a person or date. Do what you want. Story 20. The last person I dated turned up to most of our dates in jeans and a hoodie or similar. I always saw it that she was comfortable in my company and didn't feel she needed to put on a show. I've been married 8 years, and we both tend to dress up when we go out now. But that's because it's usually somewhere fancy since we don't have the kids. Story 21. Trend? Where? What women? What circles? Maybe this applies to teenagers on TikTok in certain countries, but it definitely doesn't apply to women in general. Authentic doesn't automatically mean no makeup and jogging pants. I don't feel authentic looking like that. I feel authentic in black jeans, a black long sleeve, nice boots, and smoky eyes. Because that's me, and if you date me, you'll probably see me like that on most days. Story 22. There is a difference between dressing authentically and showing up in your pajamas. No makeup and not putting your hair up? All for it. I'm married to a woman who lives that life every day. But a hoodie and sweatpants on a first date? Come on. Story 23. If you aren't bothered to be your presentable self, I feel like you are unnecessarily pushing your luck. I think you should come to a date looking like you are going to a bar or something similar. That being said, of course, hygiene and cleanliness are key. Story 24. There probably wouldn't be a second date. I like someone who takes care of themselves and dresses up occasionally to look nice. I don't play these weird games, and if someone does, we probably aren't meant for each other. Then again, context matters too. If it's a hike, who cares? If it's dinner, definitely not. Story 25. I first met my husband well over 6 years ago, and the very first time we saw each other, I wore sweatpants, an Old Navy tank top, and no makeup. I was staying with a friend for a weekend and invited him over, so we weren't out in public or anything. I never felt the need to dress up. I was comfortable. He's told me how beautiful I am every day since. Story 26. How would she feel if you showed up in a t-shirt and basketball shorts? I see a red flag if she is already testing the guy on a first date with her authentic self. Seems self-centered to me. I would back out. Story 27. I've had this happen on a first date before. It was a little weird because I dressed nicely for a date, and she dressed for bed. She didn't even look like she had brushed her hair. I definitely didn't feel very excited to be seen out in public together. But she was really nice and easy to talk to, so we saw each other a few more times. She never put in any effort to look nice the other times we went out either, and I lost interest. It's not a matter of me not being able to handle seeing girls without makeup, with bedhead and all that. I've lived with women before. I know it's not always sunshine and rainbows 24/7. Also, I know any woman I live with will also have to see me in various states of ugliness. It's a two-way street. It just felt somewhat disrespectful because I was trying to impress her while she clearly had no interest in doing the same for me. I definitely felt shallow because of it. She was a really nice girl, just a bad match for me, I guess. Story 28. The main issue with testing somebody is that in doing so, you are assuming that you are superior to the other person by being the tester and above being tested yourself. Story 29. This reminds me of a date I went on. I wore a button-down shirt and some jeans. About halfway through the date, the girl told me that I was the first date in months that bothered to put in any effort for a date with her. I felt really bad for her. People deserve better than that. Anyway, to the question, I wouldn't care if it was a breakfast coffee date. I personally like the look. But if it was drinks at a bar at night, then I'd think she was a loser, much like myself, which is awesome as long as she acknowledges she's a loser. The major deal breaker would be if she at any point criticized any part of my appearance or preparation. Story 30. Dude, I really wish. I'm not a big fan of all that stuff, especially makeup. It just doesn't appeal to me at all. It grosses me out. If I'm attracted to you, I'd much rather see your face than whatever one you put on. Story 31. Personally, I put in the effort to look good because it also tells the other person that they are worth the effort. Let's be honest, it's not that hard to look acceptable. Jeans and a tee are fine, but turning up in sweatpants would make me question their personal drive, self-respect, and hygiene. It just appears lazy. Story 32. Somehow authenticity got turned into never dress appropriately for the occasion or always look bad on purpose. You want to relax in a hoodie with someone you've been out with a few times when you're comfortable with each other. Great. But just making a point to dress down and shabby all the time is unattractive. So don't do high fashion and fuss. But when you come dressed like you literally don't care, you'll never hear from me again. Because if you don't care, you know we won't. Story 33. Depends on where the date was supposed to be. If it were a nice restaurant, I would be concerned that we might not get in if she wore that. But if it was a hike, it would be appropriate unless it rained, which it often does here. Story 34. I might be one of those weird guys who's actually good with that. When I dated last, some of the times I found my ex the most beautiful was when she was in casual wear and had messy hair. I think, for me, it's more about what it communicates. Honesty, confidence, comfort. And those qualities then translate to coming off as more attractive. Story 35. Pretty turned off, to be honest. I certainly will dress up and smell nice for her, so I would feel a little bummed out. It's not a deal breaker, but dressing up is about appreciation and making a good first impression, not deception. Dressing authentically just sounds like I don't want to put in the effort for me, and that certainly makes it harder for me to get excited. Story 36. I make an effort to look nice, and I expect the same from my partner. Authentic doesn't mean not caring about one's appearance. And if she believes that, we're better off not wasting each other's time. Story 37. Wrong question. The question is, if some women wear hoodies and sweatpants on a first date, will they lose out to the women who continue to dress nicely? My answer is the women who make more of an effort will see better results. Story 38. I like to look nice when it's time to dress up. Going out on the town, dancing, and especially on a first date, I like to look smooth. I've actually had this happen before. She really enjoyed the date and wanted to meet up again, but I turned her down. I'm sorry, but I don't want to feel embarrassed around you. I want to feel proud that we both look damn good. Now, if we have been dating forever, I don't care if it's a lazy date, but I still like to look nice going out. My mom's personality kind of rubbed off on me in that department. Ah, story 39. What kind of first dates are you all doing? Like high-end restaurant stuff or what? It seems fine to me that they would dress casually. Dating isn't a serious situation. It's casual. Story 40. I saw my girl in a t-shirt, baggy cardigan, leggings, and black boots on our second date, and I think I'm in love. She's so naturally cute and sexy to me, so that probably has a lot to do with it. Sorry if I'm gushing. Story 41. I'm totally okay with no makeup, but if you're not trying to make a good impression on the first date, then that tells me you aren't putting any effort in, so why would I make any effort to date you? Story 42. Woman here, and I'm bisexual. It depends on the activity. I don't expect someone to get dressed up for a cup of coffee. The makeup you wear alone will cost more than a coffee and a scone. If we've agreed to go to a nice restaurant and you show up in sweats, that's a deal breaker or we're going somewhere else. Then again, I'd probably not want to go on a coffee date or something too simple anyway. I agree with other comments. Everyone should be putting some effort into the first date, man or woman, regardless of sexual orientation, and that includes the venue, not just appearance. I have to already be crazy about someone to agree that getting coffee was a date.